Yeah. Okay, so Manolo. So I work in Vaadin, and almost my career, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, the problem is that the position is so. Okay, so half of my career I have been working with open source. So I am a Jenkins committer, member of the Apache James project, and as well I maintain some code in GWT, especially code that is not very used, like Request Factory. But finally I ended working for Vaadin. Vaadin is an open source company, and yeah, I'm happy because they pay me for doing something that is I was doing in my spare time. So open source. So I'm happy. Apparently more time for my family, but they say that no. Where is the mouse? Let's see how to change the. So I will give you a bit of context about Vaadin. So Vaadin is a framework of 16 years of history, helping for building web applications, building web applications with the open source framework that I deliver. We focus on Java developers, but try to make them not worry about the web technology. So for us, new web technology is exciting. We believe that web components, high-level frameworks, handling them, or even PWA or progressive web application is a replacement for the current native applications. But almost Java developers, at least people using the Vaadin framework, our customers, they don't like so much the front end, right? So we try to do that transparently. So we are focused on web components right now, not because our framework is based on web component, but because we are making a new framework release, and we believe that GWT is good for business logic, but it's not good for creating UIs. So it's better to reuse something that people are doing, like web components, and then use them from GWT, which is very easy nowadays, especially with JS interop. Also, if we create web components that not only are made with GWT and perform good, we are going to have a wider audience, and we are going to have more feedback from those users from Angular or whatever framework that uses web component. So before continuing, let's define a little bit what we are going to talk about. So there are three parts in this speech. One is an introduction of the progressive web applications. Then what is already in GWT and what GWT lacks for building modern web applications or progressive web applications. And finally, I will build GWT progressive application using a very low friction process. So let's start defining what web application or web application are. Well, a progressive web application is not defined by its name, you know. The progressive word means something that improves, right? But progressive web applications are actually well-designed web applications that adapt to the device from the beginning and the conditions that they are run. So a web application should be responsive, should work offline, and ideally it should be easy to install in your home screen. So actually it's different from what a classic hybrid application was. It's something that we did web applications that they were run in the browser, and we have some wrapper like Cordova or PhoneGap to be installed in the device. So the application itself is going to be installable. We don't need any wrapper but the browser. So let's demystify what a progressive application is. So actually there is a lot of reaction in the web about this concept. So there are many people writing about a web application, they don't like it. So it looks like Google has invented a word and they try to guide developers dictating a set of fixed lines to make web applications. But progressive is more than a monolithic thing, and more important, it is nothing new. So almost concept around progressive web applications are things that every single developer has been playing with for a long time. So the reality is that progressive web application is a way for building applications that have an improved UX that can be used in any platform and can be used in any use case. So like different countries, different level of connectivity, quality for old-fashioned devices, for disabled people, etc. Something that normally we don't take in account. And actually you can improve your application step by step, right? So first, making it responsive, so it works in any device. And next, reducing the initial code size so it loads very fast. And finally, you have to consider to run your application when the device is offline. In summary, implement individual enhancement in your applications until you get a complete web application. So the thing is that you have an application in your company, so you can enhance it. So as at the end is a web application that boot faster, that works in any device, etc. So let's see when and how the progressive web application concept was born. Well, about a year ago, Alex Russell published a manifest with a set of goals saying what things a progressive web application must fulfill. If you dive into them, we can see that almost technology are already familiar. Let's see. Everything marked with a green arrow is something familiar. So responsiveness is something that we already know about it, and we have tried to do it with CSS, with widgets. Sencha has this kind of layout that works everywhere. Also Vaadin. And online offline is something that already existed in the web. So we have something called the cache manifest. Also we have the local storage for saving some data in the browser, IndexedDB, etc. Also we have application like interaction. That's something that is in GWT from the beginning. Web application in its nature are fresh, so HTTP simply works. They are secure because we use HTTPS, and they are linkable because we already have URLs, we have tokens, history tokens, etc. But actually only a couple of concepts are really new. So one is related with the connectivity, right? So something new is service worker. We are going to talk along about service worker. Service worker allows to catch stuff or inspect the connection that your browser does with the servers, and also they allow you, for instance, to install push services that can give you some information, right? And also there is something new, that this is the manifest JSON, which makes you easy to announce your application and define how your application should be. So the first concept that everyone is talking about is that your application should load very fast. So there is something that is a trick, which is called the application shell. So it's something that like that. So if you see what Facebook does, is it shows an empty screen, but it's something that the user can see at the beginning. So native mobile application, if you consider native mobile application, the application shell is part of the distributable, so actually when you start an application normally in a device, it loads very fast. Sometimes it doesn't, but it should. But website has a con, and it's that you have to request the shell over the network, so there is a time over there, so you should to make it faster. And so for fast loading, we need a set of steps. As mentioned, the first is to develop an application shell, so as the user doesn't see a blank page for more than maybe a few milliseconds. Then you have to show an interactive first screen downloading the minimum stuff needed. So at this point, the user can start interacting with the application, maybe the login screen, maybe a menu, or maybe last company news, or whatever you imagine, so to make the user not to wait so much. And in the background, you can enhance the view in some, continue getting and catching stuff while the UI is idle. That is Service Worker 4. Also, of course, you need a responsive application. That means that your UI should adapt to any device, any dimension, and give a good usability. Additionally, the web application must look like other native applications in that device. So material design is try to solve this, but there are other options. So there are other frameworks that try to make it. In a survey that we are running in Vaadin with other things, there are many responses complaining about material design. So material design is okay for Google, but it's not okay for companies. So for instance, answer that I got, company design guidelines disallow material design. How do we change the look and feel? Well, since Vaadin is focused in enterprise applications, we are working on that. So we are contributing with the Polymer team, and we are trying to theme the paper elements so as they look as in any way that you want. So another concept in progressive web application is offline first. So offline first is a big deal. But it's fundamental that your application can be run when there is no connectivity at all. Either informing appropriately to the user about the issue, so you don't have connectivity, or just work transparently to the user. So let's see this application. So they are the same product, but so it's the same application and use the same UI components, but one of them is developed with Vaadin framework, which injects the UI from the server side. So everything happens in server side, and the client should be informed. And the other one is a pure browser solution, right? So the first one is the Vaadin one. So as you can see, when I put offline there and try to interact with the application, you see the something, server connection. If I reload the application, there is no internet connection, etc. So, but we are working in our framework to be able to produce offline applications, although we inject the UI from the server side. So, keep tuned We will announce it in its moment. Let's start explaining something new, the service workers. So who in this room knows about service workers? Okay, 4. And who is using them in real applications? 1. Oh. Okay, so service workers arise out because of the inability of high-level HTTP interaction. So you know that HTML5 app catch, it's a plain file where you put some stuff to catch at the beginning, but you cannot interact, you cannot make more things to catch, you cannot interact or modify the response, etc. So that's the first reason of a service worker. Actually, a service worker is the main foundation of the progressive web application. A service worker is like a web worker. Who knows web workers? Yeah, more people. So a web worker basically is a thread that you can use, or as many threads that you can use in your web application, and put some stuff there to be run in a different thread. But service worker is a little bit more advanced cases. So basically, a service worker runs in its own context, but it doesn't have any DOM access. But for instance, web workers need the page, but service worker doesn't. So it's not tied to the page. So it works in the background. So if you have a desktop and you have the Chrome open, but you are not visiting the page, the service worker is informing you that you have new messages in Facebook or whatever. If you close the browser in desktop, normally you don't have these notifications because the operating system is not integrating with Chrome unless someone does something. But in mobile, it's interesting because the mobile receives, for instance, a push notification for the Google infrastructure, and then the mobile is able to open the browser or the web application that you have installed, right? And one thing that is important is that HTTPS is mandatory. So you cannot use service worker in develop mode. You can, but it's difficult. So you need HTTPS. And the use cases for web workers are intersecting the network. So you can catch the content that you are interchanging with your server. And also, it can replace the app catch, the traditional app catch, and you can develop any background feature that you can imagine, like messaging and background synchronization of databases or whatever you want. But not only catching your JavaScript or your assets and network requests is enough for having an offline application, right? So most application depends on data stored on servers, and all web frameworks are coupled to backends. So how can we make an application to work offline? We have two options. The traditional one is you have an offline view in your application. So your application is when you detect that the network status is offline, you use the local storage in a limited view, and then you manually synchronize with your application using some mechanism. But there are things that are out of the box. So who knows CatchDB? Okay, so CatchDB is a non-SQL database, and it's a database that the protocol for communicating with it is just HTTPS or HTTP. And PouchDB is the same database, but is code in JavaScript. So it means that you can run the database in your browser, right? And CouchDB, and also you can run PouchDB in Node.js, so it's a replacement of CouchDB, of course. But it has mechanism for synchronizing the instances, right? So when you go offline, everything works in your local copy of the data or your local instance of the database. And when you go online, it synchronizes. Okay, you don't have to do anything. Just define where is your database in the web and what is the name of your database in local. And also Firebase has solutions. Firebase is a solution from Google, and it simply works in offline. The last key of progressive web application is that they can be installed in our home screen. So how it happens? First, the user opens the browser in the mobile or in the desktop, then visit the page, and the page asks the user to add to home screen, and then he has the application in the home screen. Also, you can do that programmatically, but if the user visits the page, I think it depends on the specification, but maybe 4 or 5 or the implementation, 4 or 5 times to the same site. At the end, the browser realizes that the user wants this application and asks him to install it. The next step is how the application looks like. So you have your icon, you push in your icon, and it looks like a web native application, you know. So you have your background, you have splash screen or whatever, and then you see the application. The application is shown in your task manager, so it's not something that it's not the Chrome icon, okay? And it's run full screen. You don't have the URL part, etc. So what is the standard for installable web applications? That is called, as I said, the manifest.json. It's just a file that is referenced in your index.html file, and is understood by browsers following the specification. The content of this file is just, it has, for instance, the web application name, it has the icons, the links to the icons, different sizes of icons, it has the URL, the preferred URL to open, the orientation, the scope of the web application, and also the push configuration. There is a demo over there. I will show it at the end. So what's the state of the art of application that can be installed and can be started offline? Basically, only Chrome supports it. But the specification is already in the WC3 organization, so most browser vendors have manifested that they will support all those features. But optionally, you have alternatives, like, for instance, continue using the application cache instead of service worker, and manually add to the home screen, make the user to add it to the home screen, or yes, use PhoneGap. So here finished the explanation about what a progressive web application is, and this is the slide where I am sharing some thoughts. So progressive web applications are an alternative to have web application and for different mobile platforms. So as the maintaining, maintaining and upgrading the same application for different platforms is a big deal for companies. They have teams from iOS, teams from Android. And with progressive web application, the idea is that you only have one application that works everywhere for everyone. So what's the future of other technology involved? For instance, PhoneGap. So you don't need anymore a native container for your application, and you don't need hardware access. So PhoneGap is a wrapper, and also it has some plugins to access the hardware of your device. But the HTML specification is already containing access to the hardware, and also you can have the application installed. So PhoneGap is going to disappear, I guess. And native SDKs, so people working on Android or iOS, those teams, maybe they have to recycle, I don't know, but probably they have to move to the web. And I see that the operating system of a device just the kernel and the browser, and everything happens in the browser. So it's that the vision that Google has as well. And what is happening with app stores? I don't know. So I don't know. Google is supporting this idea of progressive application, but they are making money with App Store. I don't know, but actually they make money with the web. So who knows? So let's continue with what we need for making progressive application in GWT. So I will roughly revisit all the points, but having in GWT as a reference. For instance, it's possible to have a shell in GWT or deal with responsive UIs with service worker and so on. For instance, application shell. Obviously, it's easy to implement in GWT. We don't have it, or maybe someone has, but we only need to decorate our host page with some HTML and CSS. So it's something that we have. Application-like iterations. So GWT was invented for creating applications in the browser, right? Hence, GWT application looks and behave like native desktop applications, so no problem. We are rich internet applications. Obviously, we can send links pointing to our application and to certain states of our UI because we have history tokens. HTTPS is something that simply works in GWT, so no problems. And having the application up to date is not a problem because the GWT linkers already take care of unique script names, etc. But what about responsive UI? So, yeah, GWT widgets are not responsive at all. Actually, I don't know how many people use them nowadays. Obviously, we can create responsive UIs coding a lot of CSS or using third-party widgets that most people are using, I guess. But GWT per se is not responsive out of the box. A well-known feature of GWT is that it loads very fast, and even faster the second time because of the cache and cache forever. But there is still some issues in modern applications. For instance, reusability of components is complex or almost impossible. So that means that each time that you version your application, the user has to download everything, even if those components are not modified at all. So what we are suggesting is to use third-party components, but components that are individuals, and you load them one. It's like using web components, right? What about running our application offline? In theory, everything should work in the browser once that you catch your application, because GWT is client-side, right? But data comes from the network, and the fault communication mechanisms in GWT are not prepared for failures. RPC, Request Factory, and etc. other third-party solutions as well. Also, it's very difficult to, or it's not out of the box to ask the network status or using IndexedDB, etc. We have third-party libraries, and the situation should almost be fixed when Elemental 2 is released. Someday, I think, very soon. So we are going to give some recipes for web application in GWT. So the first recipe is use responsive widgets collection instead of deal with doing everything by hand. So there are some things that you can use. There is GWT Bootstrap, there is Sencha collection, there is GWT Material, which is something, it's not completely made with GWT, but it uses some stuff, and GWT Polymer elements that we did in Vaadin. The second recipe is try to fast load your application. We would need to extract our application JavaScript things that can be shared between released. Okay, so reusing external component with JS interop has a lot of advantages. So reuse component, as I said, and use them in JS interop, so you don't have any overhead in your code. And finally, try to use the platform as much as possible. So if you use the platform, you don't have to develop anything. We don't need wrappers right now with JS interop. If you use web components, you only need interfaces or classes with native methods or whatever using JS interop, and it doesn't have any impact in the size. The problem with Elemental is that we have maybe the next version of GWT should include it. So the third recipe is for power the application when it is offline. So just write a manifest JSON for your application with your icons, your colors. So do that the first time that you set up your application from scratch. And also try to generate a service worker that will pre-catch all the files that you need to boot the application offline. But we need some more stuff in your GWT application. So, for instance, if you are using GWT Polymer or maybe other external libraries, or even if you want your application to be run in mobiles, probably you only need those permutations and make smaller your final JS. Also, it makes not so much sense to have different permutations per device or per browser. So collapse all the properties and also use the single script linker, because it's easier to have the unique name that you have to put in your configuration when the application, or in your catch configuration. And also you can use the service worker pre-catch CLI, which is a powerful CLI that it creates your worker JS. And the final recipe refers what to do with data when you are offline. This is optional and depends on the nature of your application. For instance, a game could go offline forever, but almost 85% of native applications use the network. So, in some cases, it could be enough to show a limited view, as mentioned, or just a modal overlay covering all your application, informing the user, but don't show the error. Just show something that is a good user experience. For some application, service worker could be enough for out of the box, so they can catch AJAX request, REST request, and you can configure it so as it gives the user the last response, valid response from the server. Otherwise, it takes it from the network, right? You can configure everything. And but for the data-centric applications, we need solutions like PouchDB or Firebase. So there are already wrappers for PouchDB, with PouchDB, and also for Firebase. With Firebase is maintained by Google. Also, you can use solutions based in Polymer and use GWT Polymer or GWT API generator for creating the classes in that. Okay, so let's build a GWT application. We are going to use some utilities developed in Vaadin Labs. All of them are good examples of our new slogan, is fight for simplicity, meaning make simple something that seems complex. So I'm announcing today that we have an archetype that generates a Maven project. It uses GWT Polymer as the UI and integrates tools in Maven. It integrates Node, NPM, Bower to generate the service worker and to generate Polymer Java API if you get some component from the web which is not already included in the library that we deliver with the paper elements, also iron elements, Vaadin elements, and so on, all official package. The usage of the archetype is like any other one. We have preferred to build an archetype instead of a human generator or Gradle or whatever script because it's more standard in the Java world, or at least it's more used. So that's the syntax. So the three first lines is how the archetype is called, and then your configuration. So demo time. Let's work with demo. How are? Okay. So I will, I don't want this full screen. I will put my network offline. I have a couple of browsers here. And let's see this application. So this is the GWT Polymer Elements demo. It is a progressive web application. So I am offline and I can do something like clear my cache and reload the application. Yeah, here it is. So everything is in the service worker, right? I can move here, and everything here which is with lots lazily should work or not. So I didn't visit this page before the demo, but I did this, also this. Okay, so the pages that I visited are working, so the user has a good experience. And also the application, let me make it smaller. The application is responsive, so here you have something that looks native in an Android device or in an iOS device. And also we have something interesting in the Google Developer Tools, which is called Application tab. So in the Application tab we have our manifest. So it describes that we have a manifest which is in this location, and also we have something that is interesting for the developer, which is add to home screen. If I click here, it should work. Let's see, it doesn't. Probably because we are disconnected, so it doesn't work when I am disconnected. Let's see what happens if I turn with Wi-Fi on. What is that? What is the Wi-Fi? Is this one? Yeah, it's connected. So let's reload the application, try to add to home screen. So it asked me to add to my home screen. how is the application called? So in the manifest already you have the name for the application. So I push here and I have in my, so if I go to my application, I have here the application, right? In the mobile it should be in the home screen. And if we take a look to the index, this is the index HTML of the application. We have a couple of things that are interesting. So the first is where the manifest JSON is, and this is the content of the JSON manifest. As you can see, it's very easy to create one for your application. It's something static. So you define the color, define the, you need at least this size of one icon. You can define different icons for different things, splash screen, etc. But that's the simple thing. And also, if you go to the index, we have here some CSS, we have here some HTML, so it looks pretty nice. This is the shell application. And also we have here something that if service worker is in navigator, and also we are in HTTPS, because otherwise it doesn't work, so register the service worker. So what is the service worker JS? Well, this is the content. So as you can see, it's something that is unreadable. Of course, I have not written this. It is a lot of stuff that is produced with the CLI. So I configure the CLI and everything happens when I compile my application, okay? You have many examples of progressive web applications. This is the site Progressive Web Application Rocks. If I go offline, the site is already a progressive web application. You have here application that should work. For instance, I have visited that and it works. This is just, it does a sound, but it's mute, I don't know. It doesn't work, but it has a sound, no problem. And also, yeah, this is the, it's here? Yeah, this is the application made by Vaadin. It's a Spanx manager, you can use it. Actually, it loads very fast because we have a login screen with demo, and yeah, then, but everything is cached, okay. So let's continue. Go to the operating system and let's do something with the sizes. So I'm going to put my computer online. Oh, I removed something that I shouldn't. No problem. So, because I already has it imported in Eclipse. So I need this. Yeah, it should work. So this is the command line that I put in my. I am adding just this, just offline. I don't want to download things from Maven because already are cached. So archetype generate, artifact, etc. It takes a while. Yeah, it asks me for everything that I already provide. What's the name of my application, the artifact ID, the name, etc. Everything is okay. So cd my app, and then the next step is there is a profile which is PWA, which uses the single the single script linker. Otherwise, it uses the normal linker, so as you can debug in using super dev mode. Okay, but if you want to produce the application, just run this. It's compiling. It should take, I don't know. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to, I think this is, it should work or not. I don't know. If I refresh, yeah, problem. Because I removed that. So delete. Okay. File. This is a Maven project. Not export. File import. Maven projects. Where is my? Okay. So I need this folder. Browse. Okay. And let's see. And finish. Okay. And then I'm ready for running this command, which actually is copying my application to my demo server in Vaadin using an rsync command. Is something for deploying it and should work. So if I go somewhere, probably here, yeah, this is my application. So this is the application I have compiled. Yeah, it works. So if I clear the cache, also if I go to my service workers, there is a service worker here. I can unregister it. So everything should be. Let me clear the selected everything. Okay, so everything is cleared. I can reload, and you can see, yeah, it did very fast. And here you have my application. So when you create the application with the archetype, you have an user list. It does an Ajax request here. This is the Vaadin table, famous Vaadin table, which is very fast. And also you have here some videos. It's an Ajax to YouTube videos showing something about progressive web applications, indeed. And also you have a to-do here, so you can use the fantastic Vaadin date picker. No? Doesn't work, or what's happening? Oh, yeah, it was. Title, description, add, and I have the table here, okay? So everything works. So I'm gonna I'm gonna run the super dev mode, npm run dev mode. It doesn't work. Why? Oh, quit. I'm using the new Maven plugin from Thomas Royer. It's very nice. And I can launch it in my browser. It compiles and it works. It should work, so I have my application here. So this is what we have in the application. Let's see. You have this pre-cache config. So this is something that you have to modify to match your patterns of URLs that you want to cache. So this is cache first, but you can use network first or whatever for different combinations. This is the static file that I need at the beginning. So this is the reason I am not using permutation. Sorry, permutation, no, the obfuscated name or whatever, because I don't want to modify this file. And also we have in our POM file, we have something like this stuff here. This is we are using the front-end Maven plugin, which is able to run npm. Also, it installed in your computer Node.js if it's not, and also it's able to run some script, like for instance this service worker generator. No, this is generating an empty file if you are not using the PWA profile, right? Also here we have this, if you use, this is the GWT API generator, so when you have a new polymer element, you can, this is enabled by, disabled by default, but already in your POM file. And also you have here the software, the service worker pre-catch script, CLI, okay? So that's something that it works, exactly, it works. So for now we can do something like, how do I detect in my, let me go to the Java client. So what we have here is, we have a couple of modules files, so I have my application here, and also I have my application here for PWA. So here, basically I add the single script, and then that's something that I don't want. My entry point is actually a view, so it implements entry point, but also extends composite. And on module load, I am initializing this UI binder file, which actually has a lot of widgets that come from the app drawer. Is a polymer app header layout or whatever I have. So it takes care, the GWT polymer elements take care of loading or lazy loading what it needs each time that you go to a, and yeah, that's everything that we need. We call something like, when polymer is ready, we import something static, etc. And that's all. Then we have some views here, over here already. So for instance, you have the view 3 is the view handling the form. So you have a form here with Vaadin date picker, paper input, text area, paper button, and then we have a Vaadin grid, which is configured in this way. So we use the light DOM of the web component for doing that. And that's everything that you need for this complex view. And here we have the code. It's very easy to understand. We can use UI fields for that. So something that we cannot use actually with Polymer is data binding. So we are using just this version of data binding of GWT, which is just know the component in the Java code, but we cannot data bind different components using the Polymer syntax. It's something that we are working on and probably we will release. I wanted to do something like, let's see, no, it's here. So for instance, to implement network status, I think Daniel is going to explain a lot of JS interop, but it's a feature that is not actually in GWT. It's ask the navigator for if it's online or not. So that's very cool, because you create a native static method everywhere, and you say my namespace is navigator, so it's online means the online property, because I am annotating here. And also something that is not in GWT for years is, how can I get a reference to the window? I have to do something like a script injector dot something weird for getting just the window. Okay, so here you have a reference of the window returning an HTML element because I want to add some listeners, and that's all, right? So in order to see the network status, I can go to the view 3 here and do something like, for where is the menu, to do, No, I want to go to my shell UI XML, yeah, and here I have my app, so I can start using something like, I have the line over here, so I am going to copy and paste. So this is component paper batch, or whatever is pronounced. And if I reload my application here, yeah, here it is. So it's indicating that I'm offline. Actually, I'm not. So let's see how to make it work. So we go to the shell Java, we import the UI file. Paper budget, and it's, what's the name? Offline, okay. And then I add some code over here, something like, I can copy from here that so basically I call my new class. Why it doesn't? Yeah, it works. And add a new change listener, and I set visible it. So something so easy like this should be in all applications. So let's go. Here it is now. Yeah, but it works. Now when it connects, yeah, it disappears. So it's something like that. So I have more demos to show maybe how to enable, for instance, we can enable in our application other components for the Polymer wall, like I'm going to npm install, let's save. And I want Vaadin with API generator, and I want the master version. You can just write this and it should work. And when I do that, let's see here, we have the package JSON file, which is only have a dependence with each the service worker pre-catch CLI. So now if I refresh, let's refresh the application here. Yeah, we have the API generator here. Also, we can do something like bower install Manolo Vaadin pouch DB, also the master version. So this is a web component which wraps the pouch DB database. Okay, it works. I have to update my bower, but it works. And if we refresh here and we open the bower JSON file, okay, it doesn't work because I need to say something like save. So when I save that, yeah, it updates my file with a dependency. So, and also I want to do something is to enable this. And now if I run, yeah. If I run Maven again, what is happening? Oh, it has created a lot of stuff here. Let's show. So it has created PouchDB, sync active event, or whatever I need for. We can go to Eclipse And here, let me refresh. And here under the where is it? Yeah. So we have here in Vaadin, we have db raw, conf, db something, etc. We have the Vaadin PouchDB Java for widgets, the Vaadin PouchDB element, which is the wrapper for the element, is actually the JS interop file for wrapping the component, and this is the version of this is actually a widget. Okay, and yeah, so you can add any component and everything works in Maven. And it's all for today. So I want to go back to the presentation because I have here this survey. If you have 10 minutes, please fill it because we want that information. So the survey is run by Vaadin and Polymer and Skate.js. Skate is another version of web components. And thank you very much.